Morning.
Morning. Well, I'm in Culham at this Centre for Fusion, the UK Atomic Energy Authority. One day we might have plentiful and endless energy from a process called fusion, which they have been experimenting with here for, I think, actually decades.
All right.
So it's obviously a longer term hope that could really solve our energy problems, our energy bills, and the rest of it. But the rest of what I've announced today is 1,000 pages worth of different measures that we're taking to, try and lower people's energy bills, to provide us energy security, power Britain from Britain.
How can you see that for my listeners? What are the key points that jump out, say, perhaps about renewables? And I know nuclear is a key factor as well, Secretary of State.
One of the things I'm doing this morning is launching Great British Nuclear. And what we're going to do is build nuclear power stations. We're also going to build small modular reactors. That's a new type of smaller power station to bring that sort of underlying level of power to the United Kingdom, so we're not reliant on a tyrant like Putin or his gas, which, in fairness, we weren't really buying very much of. But as soon as he hit the rest of the world with it, our prices went up as well. We want complete independence from that. And that is really the key to what I'm doing today. What I'm saying in this plan is offering a route to the cheapest energy in Europe, because I think that Britain will excel if we get access to that sort of power and be able to build a bigger economy and, of course, cut people's household bills.
If I put it in slightly cruder terms, as one newspaper does, it's possibly a bit of stick as well as carrot, Secretary of State. Households will be penalised if they do not switch from gas under net zero plans. If that's correct, can you tell me why your government is taking that hardline approach?
Well, the whole world has this problem of having to deal with the carbon, which, as we know, is causing all sorts of difficulties to the globe that we live on, the planet we live on. Britain's actually got a brilliant record on this. We've been cutting carbon for years, faster than any other developed nation, and we've been switching to renewable energies, but to which I now include or add more nuclear power. But actually, as I say, I'm here at a fusion centre which offers very inexpensive and endless power. But even in between that, we've got massive opportunities, for example, to store the carbon. This sounds extraordinary, but it's possible to capture carbon and put it back underground, particularly in all those oil and gas fields in the North Sea. We've got enough space to do that because of our geology, that we could sell that to the rest of the world. And it could be an industry worth as much or more than the entire oil and gas industry was worth in the first place. So this could be a way to make the UK much better off, and all of your listeners better off as well. Those are some of the longer term plans, and the shorter ones are to do things that help bring people's energy bills down in the shorter term. And remember, we've been paying about half of people's energy bills this winter, even though it won't have felt that way as Putin's war has pushed up the prices.
I hear what you say, but because you won't be putting money in their pockets if they're going to be charged more if they don't move to an alternative. I know there's a £30 million heat pump investment accelerator that we're going to learn about, but how much will I be fined if I don't get a heat pump? How long have I got to put a heat pump in my back garden, Secretary of State?
So there's no end date at all, and you're not going to be fined a penny is the answer to both of those questions. We're not forcing anyone to remove their gas boilers, and at the moment, of course, there are other opportunities like heat pumps, but there are lots of development issues and getting the price down and all the rest of it, which is important in that transition. So no, that's not sort of there isn't an end date, is to answer your question. But
have you got a heat pump,
progressively.
Secretary of State?
No, but actually, in a couple of weeks' time, I have one of the energy companies coming around to see whether my house could take one. And as I say, there are technical issues with heat pumps to do with the size of your piping and that sort of thing. But I mean, I always like to test these things out.
Yes.
Personally. So yeah, I've arranged a survey, so we'll find out.
Well, good. Okay, I won't pry on your personal affairs, but does someone qualify for a grant on this? Because I imagine it's a fairly
that's right.
It's a fairly hefty lump to spend, I imagine, Secretary of State.
It can be, but one of the other things I've done today is extended out a grant which is £5,000 for anyone who does fit one of these heat pumps. Now, recently,
what is the price,
Mr.
Shapps?
Well, I was going to say, recently we've seen
grand?
both. They can be expensive, but recently we've seen both British Gas and Octopus come forward and offer heat pumps that, after that £5,000, would mean you were paying £3,000 or even £2,500. So makes it competitive with fitting a regular gas boiler. So we're starting to see this come into equilibrium, which is what we need to see in order to get to sort of mass fitting of these things.
So that headline that householders face a penalty for using gas is a little overstating it then, in fairness.
It is. I think the way that headline has come about is one thing I have said is, look, we know that the world is moving towards electricity, not just for heating and for heat pumps, but also the cars we drive and the whole economy is becoming electric over a long period of time. So actually, rather than loading that on, there are excess levies, and they're all loaded onto electricity, and we're simply saying that we will look at whether those levies should in fact be on gas rather than electricity in order to rebalance that thing, including that conversation about heat pumps there.
You mentioned cars, and it's reported that Britain's ban on new petrol and diesel cars will still take effect from 2030. This despite, it would appear, Europe starting to back down and washing down its own restrictions and adding a few years. Why are you so determined to follow?
Yeah, 2035 is actually that final phase-out date. But as you say, there's this transition going on. Germany has a particular car manufacturing lobby, and I hear rumours, but I don't think it's actually been confirmed, but that the EU is looking at exemptions for them in different ways. We'll see where that gets to. But I think it's really important for our own car manufacturers that they know the trajectory, the direction of travel.
But it's still 2030, isn't it? The end of the sale of pure petrol, pure diesel?
It's of pure petrol and diesel.
It's 2030, just to clarify. I'm right on that at least.
That's right. And then there's another 5 years of where hybrids will still be, you can still sell hybrids new. So there's a phase-out process here.
Well, last couple of questions on this. You're aware, are you, of how many electric, I'm going to call them charging points, I hope I've got the right expression, they are in the country currently?
Yes,
what is the number, Secretary of State?
So there's about 40,000 plus available to the public. There's about another
39,917 I've got, so we'll allow that one. And I, well done.
I was going to say that's not the full picture though, because a lot of people have. But
that's about a tenth of what's required, Secretary of State.
No,
that's what I've got in front of. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know, but I'm afraid a lot of people don't quite realise that there are 300,000 or 400,000 at least in people's homes. Off-street parking, that sort of thing, which are not included in those numbers. And most of the time, people with electric cars will charge up at night. And about 70% of people have off-road parking as well. So the numbers are that 40,000 is very distorted. But you're probably right. We probably need 10 times that overall. But
will we get there?
We've got still quite a lot of time to get there. Yeah, because we're putting billions into it, and the marketplace is delivering. I've driven an electric car on my second one. I've driven for several years.
I've asked you this about this a few times.
You have, I know, for several years. And I can honestly say, as the distances get better, this issue that I constantly hear talked about has become less and less relevant because the cars are able to store more power and go further and further, and most people charge up overnight. Of course, there are big issues to resolve, particularly for off-street parking, and that's where the government cash is going.
Okay, when are we going to see
for on-street parking?
When are we going to see a charging point outside number 10?
There is one. It's already there. It's just actually tucked around the corner. I saw it at the weekend, yes.
Oh, yeah, very good.
There actually more than one. There are a couple there.
Okay.
As you approach number 10, for those with detailed knowledge, but look towards the Cabinet Office. It's just down that turning, but it's in Downing Street itself.
Last couple of questions. The Guardian has reported you've banned foreign trips at your Energy Security and Net Zero Department, obviously for environmental reasons. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. The reason actually was I was very frustrated that we weren't responding to constituents fast enough, to other MPs writing on behalf of their constituents, and we had a backlog in our response. Now that's because there'd been a lot of churn and turnover. I'm not prepared to see letters not responded to in a very timely fashion. And I simply said to my ministers on a temporary basis that we will not be going anywhere until we get this up to date, which actually, interesting, Nick, happened very quickly once I set that rule.
Okay.
So the travel is back.
And lastly, you're well known, I wonder if I can call you a TikTok star. You're certainly a TikTok user. And when the government said that it had issues with the app, you posted a video showing Leonardo DiCaprio saying, "I'm not flipping, leaving." I've changed a word there, Mr. Shapps. What's your position on TikTok? Staying with it, Mr. Shapps.
Yes, I'm not leaving. That's right. That's it. I'm not leaving. I mean, but the truth is, of course, it makes sense to do the smart stuff, like not upload it on government networks or have it on government phones, things which I never did. And in any case, it's blocked from those networks. But any politician who thinks that the way to get themselves, in front of the public is to leave the space that the public are in, is probably going to have a surprise when it comes to elections. So, of course, take sensible precautions. Don't use government devices. Don't give it access to all your contacts and locations and all the rest of it. But, for heaven's sake, we do need to make sure we are out there in front of our public explaining things like today's energy announcements. Otherwise, how on earth are people going to know about it?
Grant Shapps is Secretary of State for Energy Security and Net Zero, explaining that revolution. I'm grateful to you for your time. Thank you, Secretary of State. 2 minutes after 8 here on LBC. Let's get the headlines.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation.